So this is the on the eve of Ram Navami, which is coming very soon, and Gudi Padwa. According to some legend, Lord Ramachandra was coronated. The beauty of Sri Ramayana, for that matter, Valmiki Ramayan's compilation, or for that matter, the literature of Sanatana Dharma, they based on these two principles. One, the external reality, and one is the internal reality. The external reality deals with power, position, administration, governance, and dealing with the evil forces. For that, there is a society. The society will continue to exist. There is a Prakriti, the Srishti. The Srishti will continue to exist beyond our individual existence. And then there is our inner reality, the sweet, the relationship with God in different rasas. Generally, what happens? Those who take to the path of spirituality, they focus on inner reality, consciously or unconsciously undermine the external reality. And those who focus on the external reality, politics, economics, society, they consciously or unconsciously undermine the internal reality. If you study the battle in the Christian world, or the Western world for that matter, the Industrial Revolution was caused by resisting against the church, the Vatican Church. And therefore, one of the greatest philosopher, famous or infamous, Friedrich Nietzsche, he made that statement, God is dead. I was just studying, why did he say that? What was the background? So very interestingly, he saw the conflict between the internal reality proposed by Christianity and external reality proposed by the Industrial Revolution. And he went back to the Greek philosophers, wherein I think it was Plato who discussed about there is a feminine morality and there is a masculine morality. No, wherein Nietzsche called it the herd morality given by religion and the superior morality given by those who are competent, those who are contributor, those who are beyond mediocre. And therefore, if you really want to see the beautiful harmony between external and internal, the sweet relationship, at the same time alert presentation, is the place in Chitrakoot between Lord Ramachandra's meeting with Bharat. Generally what happens, we only focus on Ram and Bharat mila, bhar ke ras hai. There is so much of juice of Sakhya ras. Sakhya or Vatsalya ke beech mein Ram, Sri Ramachandra being the elder brother of Bharat, he takes onto the position of the father because now Dashrath Maharaj has gone away from the world. Right. But still, because they're brothers, there is also a Sakhyaras, which is flavored with respect to Lord Ramachandra. There is a separation because they have lost their father, which Ram comes to know after Bharata's visit. But within that separation also, Sri Ramachandra does not hesitate, does not stop speaking the principle of how to rule and how to govern. to Bharat. It's a profound combination of feminine morality and masculine morality. It's a combination of Raja and Rishi. It's a combination of Rasa and Nyaya. It's a combination of Avatara for establishing Dharma and Avatara giving sweet relationship for those who love him. They are not contradictory to each other. It's a very interesting principle. And therefore, today, with whatever time we have, we'll try to understand the governance. Right? When the governance concept comes, many philosophers, many reformists came, including, for that matter, Ravan, Hiranyakashipu, Karl Marx, Lenin, socialism, secularism, to say that Samatavad matlab everybody is equal. Nobody is superior, nobody is inferior. Sab log saman hai. And we will bring forth happy life for everybody. Hunger eradication, garibi hatao, right? So they brought forth such kind of statements. But what do you see? Since time and immemorial, whether it is capitalist or socialist, you still see there is a disparity. In fact, it is proven through statistics. In the 17th and 18th century, where there was so-called monarchy, there was naturally some kind of exploitation was happening, but the disparity between the poor and the rich was 9:17. This is not my statistics. It is given by the British people only. Dr. Dharmapalji explains this. Now see the difference, the disparity between a CEO, the disparity between the manager and the ordinary worker has grown 1:20,000. I remember listening to some PhD professor about, he had done his PhD in regards to coffee. He said the difference between an ordinary worker working in the field and when it reaches to the consumer, the coffee, right, is 1:2,000. That is a huge disparity. If somebody gets 1 paise where they're producing, against that somebody is selling, he will make 2,000 times more than the producer. So therefore, garibi hatao, hunger eradication, everybody will be equal. It is a good statement, but it has never been existed since the beginning of the creation. The division will continue to exist. But dharma and avatara, what do? They minimize the hunger, maximize the happiness. They minimize the hunger, they minimize the slavery, they minimize the working class, they maximize the independent people. So therefore, when you study statistically, the Rama Rajya or the Dharma Rajya was based upon this principle: whoever you are, minimize suffering, but you cannot completely eradicate suffering. Minimize hunger, you cannot completely eradicate hunger. Even the wealthiest of people in California, in America, in California, you'll find more people loitering in the street, looking for shelter, looking for food, as much as in Pakistan also, right? So therefore, we will focus how did Lord Ramachandra establish or his ancestors establish an order which was beneficial in regards to their social life, their spiritual life, their political life, and their economical life. So therefore, Varna, what is Varna? Varna is a social order. You can call it Varna or you can call it as a judicious distinction between from one person to other person. Just like there is Varna Mala, alphabet, there is Swara Mala, the Nada, there is Phool Mala, there is a garland, right? In a garland, there are some flowers are used very less. There are leaves which are used, but you cannot say we have to use 20 grams of flower, 20 grams of leaf, 20 gram of genda flower, 20 gram of rose flower, because everybody needs to get equal opportunity to represent in the garland. Doesn't happen like that. In the Varnama also we see Ksha. The Ksha Shabda doesn't get so much of opportunity. Ksha does not get so much of opportunity. But the Swara, A, A, U, A, I, they're everywhere. So can you say that they're taking a superior position, therefore you bring a socialism? Okay, let us remove A from everywhere because A is dominating everywhere. Right? So therefore, when we see the nature has orchestrated in such a way which is not imposed, which is not establishes, which is not man-made system. It is there since beginning of the creation. Right? So similarly, Varna is a minimum description of basic unit of something which cannot be avoided. So what was the social order in Valmiki's Ramayana, in Lord Ram's Ramayana? There was Krishi, there was Vanijya, there was Khanija, means mining was there, Krishi was there, cow related economics was there. Ramayana explains Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Lobha Vivarjita, Swakarmashu Pravartante Tushta Swaireva Karmabi. Yuddha Kanda. It explains that all different people from different profession, they were successful, but more than success, they were contented. They were satisfied. There was not this, market-driven profession, right? Industry-driven profession, only profit-driven profession. Just like the farmer, instead of seeing what he can grow in his field, he looks what is there in the market and therefore he makes greater loss. Employment exchange was non-existing. Every part of the land, whichever was cultivable, had to be used. We don't use large portion of cultivated land. So that was the focus given. And therefore, if you study, we'll come to that in the Artha Vyavastha, there is a Nadi Matraka and a Deva Matraka. Depending upon Daiva and depending upon human endeavor in regards to agriculture also. I'll come when I discuss Artha Shastra. Was there mixed marriage in Ramayana? Antar-Jatiya Vivaha. Generally, Antar-Jatiya inter-caste marriage would not happen, but it was not banned. It was not sin. It was not a crime. Like the very person Shravan Kumar, when he was serving his parents, they were mixed caste. And even though they were mixed caste, they still had the privilege to go to the holy place. Now, Matanga Rishi, one of the famous Rishi from the Ramayana, was not from the Brahmin community, but he was still a Rishi. Shabari, whom Lord Ramachandra called, Sri Ramachandra called, Shabari, how is your tapasya going? How is your puja going on? What are you doing with your spiritual activities? Are you satisfied? Charu Bhashini, Lord Ramachandra glorifies Shabari for her tapasya, but how does Lord Ramachandra is known among the socialists, the oak, and the people who have written that Lord Ram killed Shudra because Shudra wanted to grow. The story of one of the person who happened to be Shudra community, but he was doing tapasya, therefore he was killed. This story is circulated, but nobody talks about Matanga Rishi, Shabari, Guha for that matter. Now Lord Ramachandra embraced Guha. Now Guha is a meat eater, right? There was no such conflict in regards to vegetarians and non-vegetarians. They would not debate about their food habits. That was not an issue, right? Vishwamitra Muni was not born in a Brahmin family, but he was declared as a Brahmana by Vashishta Maharshi. Valmiki Maharshi personally himself, he was born in a Brahmin family, raised in a hunter family, became a great Valmiki Maharshi, guided by Narad Muni, who himself was not born in a Brahmin family. So the social order, while maintaining certain discipline, was also flexible, and that was not considered as aparadh. Right. Now Ravana was born in a Brahmin family, but he was punished. The two brothers, the 14,000 Rakshasas were killed along with Khar and Dushan. Now Khar, Dushan were born in a Brahmin family, but they got destroyed by their bad habits. So therefore, caste-centric privileges were not available in the social order. All right. Shravan Kumar's father, even though not born in a Kshatriya or a Brahmin family, mixed caste, he had the power to curse Dashrath Maharaj. And that curse worked for Dashrath. So therefore, the social order was very dynamic. The Puritanian social order, the segregation of the social order, is not caused because of our Shastra. Instead, it was caused because of not understanding the Shastra properly. In the Valmiki Ramayana, in the Mahabharata, in the Manu Samhita, the concept of Upanan Samskar is given to everybody. When Hanumanji saw Mother Sita first time in Lanka, what was she doing? She was offering Sandhya Bandhan. She was offering Tarpan to Surya Dev. What do you think Wali was doing? Even though born in a Kapikula, he was extremely competent in performing all kinds of rituals which are accepted of a Brahmana in regards to Sandhya Bandhan. So therefore, the social order was very, very dynamic. There were drama theaters purely practiced and managed by the women folk. Kaushalya had resources where she was running the Gurukul for the children. And Kaikai, on the other hand, had the power to take the chariot of her husband and go in the battlefield, right? Drive his chariot, and that's how she got the special benediction from her husband Dashrath Maharaj. So please read Valmiki Ramayana from this context also. Read Mahabharata from this context also. Therefore, the conflict between the warrior morality and the herd morality does not exist for the people who practice Ramayan's philosophy. Now, Artha Vyavastha, prosperity, one of the greatest complaint made by some of the politicians that Sanatan Dharma, Hindu growth rate, recently the ex-RBI chairman Raghu Raman, he must have read the Hindu growth rate. All the economists use this term called as Hindu growth rate. Hindu growth rate means you are actually not growing properly. उसके लिए उन्होंने हिंदी growth rate use किया. They don't use Christian growth rate, they don't use Islamic growth rate, but they consciously use the word Hindu growth rate now also, today also. Right? But if you want to study the original Artha Shastra or Ramayana or Narad Muni speaking to Yudhishthir Maharaj, wherein they talk about satisfaction is the enemy of the progress. Right? Our Narad Muni says, Lord Ramachandra says, Chanakya Pandit says, Brahmana's life is a life of satisfaction. But Vaishya's life and Kshatriya's life is a life of ambition, because unless they grow in dharma centric, the civilization will not grow only. So therefore Lord Ramachandra, he told Bharat, my dear Bharat, dharma se अर्थ का नाश नहीं होना चाहिए और अर्थ से धर्म का नाश नहीं होना चाहिए. Dharma should not destroy artha and artha should not destroy dharma. And therefore, what does Chanakya, based upon this principle, says? Dharmasya moola artham. Dharma ka mool artha, Srila Prabhupada explained that those who are poor, they may have good qualities, but all their good qualities get destroyed because of their poverty. And Lord Ramachandra goes in great details about wealth concentration. He says, in the kingdom, let the expenses be less and profit more. He said, when the state, when the governance, when the Rashtra is creating more profit and less expenses, that gives rise to satisfaction in the praja. Just see the difference between Pakistan and India now today. What is the reserves in Indian bank in regards to the reserves, and what reserves Pakistan has. First time in Pakistan, the loyal Pakistanis are openly speaking against the army, because they are the one who are part of the feudal state. And here Lord Ramachandra makes a very interesting concept. He said, it doesn't matter how much somebody loves you. It doesn't matter how somebody is loyal to you. Are you paying their salary at the right time? Are you paying their salary according to the proportionate of their hard work? आप उनसे ज्यादा काम ले रहे हो और उनको पैसा कम दे रहे हो, you will be tormented, you will be targeted. That's an interesting example. During the revolutionary movement, there's a very nice book called as Revolutionary by Sanjeev Sanyal. It's an amazing book how those who had the power, they basically cornered all the revolutionaries, did not get their due credit, and how the Britisher purchased them. It's a very interesting. Subhash Chandra Bose had someone, his name was Bhagat Ram. He actually was part of helping Subhash Chandra Bose escape from house arrest in Kolkata. So naturally, when you know that somebody has helped you to, escaped the clutches of the British government. But this Bhagat Ram was purchased eventually. Whatever messages would come from Subhash Chandra Bose, he would give it to the Communist Party. And the Communist Party, and now these are all not just made up stories, they're all properly recorded. And the Communist Party would give those information to British government without Subhash Chandra Bose knowing that my messages are leaked. Not one, not two, not three, so many people did like that. Why? Because the British government had the greater resources to purchase. And therefore, what Lord Ramachandra says, Dharma should bring forth a lot of wealth. So wealth and Dharma makes your loyalty very solid. It is unshakable. But if there is only Dharma and there is no Artha, when you are cornered, when you are suffering so much, not for the sake of wealth, but for the sake of sustainability and survival, one will compromise in regards to their alliance because the money is coming, right? And therefore, Artha Shastra was presented in such a way, whether it is Dasharath Maharaj, whether it is the Pandavas, they would have immense resources to be kept in for 12 years. Therefore, whenever we discuss 12 saal ka drought tha, why 12 saal? Why can't we say 5 years? Why can't we say 7 years? Why can't we say 6 years? Because even if there is no rains for 1 year, that causes so much of turmoil and disturbance. But we read because that is one of the rule in Artha Shastra, that your resources should be so much that even if 12 years there is no addition into that, it should survive. Vijayanagar king tried to follow that. Every year they would save more than 200,000 gold coins and diamond, right? So there was no deficient budget. You see, whether it is America, whether it is Europe, whether it is Pakistan, whether it is Afghanistan, when you spend more compared to your earning, then what does it do? You become disqualified to hold the treasury. Therefore, Lord Ramachandra did not allow any unqualified people to hold the treasury. And then again, it is explained for Artha Shastra, agriculture was very much focused, but the production and distribution were interconnected very nicely. Therefore, the word Vartaka, इस शब्द का अर्थ क्या है? वर्तक मीन सर्कल, जो जहां से प्रोडक्शन होगा और कंज्यूमर तक सर्कल बना देगा. He would create a circle between the production and consumption. That was the main responsibility of the Vaishya class. They produce the most important necessities of life. The production of luxury goods and industry was there, but they never overtook the principle of basic necessities of life. There is an interesting guy in Pakistan, if you listen to him, if you hear him, you'll feel like he's speaking so logical, rooted in his native culture. He does not connect himself to Arabic world. He does not connect to Persian world. He said, Mir Qasim came and killed our people and you are worshipping him. He said, you are from Indic civilization. Your civilization is connected to, what is it? Indus Valley. How can you do that? If you do like that, you are not natively loyal also, and you want to run away being loyal to Pakistan, to America. Right. So therefore, sustainability, and he gives the example, wherever there is greater poverty, that society's elite people spend more money in their marriages. He said marriage is a personal choice. 300 करोड़ 400 करोड़ 500 करोड़ रुपए खर्चा करते हैं शादी में, and even if they spend 5% of that wealth for empowering the poor children, they will get duave, they will get benediction, and that is also one part of Ramayana. Another very interesting principle is the water resources. Therefore, whether it is Ramayana or whether it is Mahabharata or Bhagavatam, one of the core character of dharmic person, his celebration was connected to sustainability. Right? All of us, we are being a spiritualist people. What happens? That consciously, as a habit, regularly, we are not connected to planting tree. We are not connected to excavating water. We are not connected to hoarding water or storing water. He said, no, these are all mundane subject matter. Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad, Narad Muni saw this every day, regularly. He was connected to the nature, planting the trees, excavating the water, harvesting the water was part of life. Therefore, Valmiki Ramayana explains there is Nadi Matraka and Deva Matraka. Deva Matraka means depending upon the rains, that is Deva. But then they would also store water. And one of the greatest contribution of the family of Raghukula is that their ancestors headed by Sagar Maharaj and his sons, and eventually Bhagirath Maharaj, was responsible for bringing Ganga to earthly planet. Even if you don't want to believe the truth, symbolically see the power of Ganga coming to earthly planet. Almost like 900-kilometer area, has become so fertile because of the contribution of Ramachandra's ancestors. And then it is explained, Tesham Gupti Pariharai Kachite Bharanam Kritam, Ayodhya 48th chapter, Ayodhya Kand. What is that? Lord Ramachandra's treasury or his ancestors' treasury had a Gupta Dhan. The Gupta Shabda tha na, Gupta Shabda. Udhar se hi aata hai. Ye Vaishya log the, they would maintain the treasury of the king. Right? And it is quite common. You'll find many Vaishyas would give loan to the king. They would have sometimes more resources than the king, and eventually the king would pay them back. So what they would do, because they had this Gupta Dhana, in emergency time, the state would provide resources to the citizens, not pamper them. You don't find loan wavering in the Ramayana. You don't find supporting some nonsense cause. The wealth of the government was spent to empower people, protect people, and help them grow. And therefore, Lord Ram explains, how do you spend the government money? First is Dharma Karya. First means contribution. Now, Dharma Karya, again, not at the cost of other things also. Like this so-called leftist, they ask this question, अरे मंदिर बनाने से क्या मिलेगा? रामायण अयोध्या में मंदिर बना उससे क्या लाभ होगा? Now please go to your Kashi Vishwanath's temple. Since the new corridor has come, the number of pilgrims who are coming from, not only from India, all over the world. And that is not feeding only the pujaris. It is not giving money to the pujaris. In fact, because of the corridor, the systems have been implemented. It has become very streamlined. Even the priest cannot become corrupt. There is a system. And what does it do? That corridor is giving wealth to the most ordinary people, like a coolie, jo thela अपने सिर पे सामान उठा ले रहा है. It is giving for those who make flowers. It is giving for the chai walas. It is giving for the rickshaw walas. It is giving for the guest house which are not operating for long back. It is giving wealth for the jhadu walas who are constantly working to keep things clean, and people also give sometime bait to them. And it is also giving to the pujaris. It is also giving to the government. It is also giving to the tourist industry. Unless understand the purpose of the temple. Similarly, Ayodhya temple also, the Ram temple, which is going to come up. Unfortunately, the very people, the leftists, they don't understand, which Aurangzeb understood. If you study Aurangzeb, he was a very shrewd politician. He realized the resources of the Hindu people is connected to temple, because that is the place where they come together. That is the place they socialize together. That is the place where they're inspired to earn their wealth. That is the place where they're connected to knowledge and education, right? So therefore, as Ram has already spoken, that artha and dharma are not contradictory. आपके धर्म से अगर अर्थ नहीं आ रहा हो, या आपके अर्थ से धर्म की वृद्धि नहीं हो रही हो, there is some problem. Therefore, dharma karya, pitra karya, respecting your ancestors, empowering people through education, right? Not controlling the education, empowering the education. And then giving your resources to the army, right? Army ko. And then also investing your money to the friendly kings. This is how the wealth of the government was used properly. And therefore it is explained, the dharmic institutions, their focus should be foundational education, not mundane education. Their purpose should be giving foundational education so that the feminine morality and the masculine morality are integrated. Rajarshis are created, not crowd is created. Next is political system. Right? The political system, it was consisted of Amatya and Mantri. Amatya is an executioner, and Mantri is a visionary. There was two Mantris, Vamadeva and Vasishta. They were advisors, deeply intellectuals. And there were other Mantris, Amatyas. And one of the Amatya was Sumantra also. And Sumantra did not come from a Brahmin community. Sumantra was not a Kshatriya also. In fact, he was a private secretary of Dasharath Maharaj, being a chariot driver also. Suta, very deep in his understanding. And therefore, Ram explains to Bharat, whenever you choose to perform certain project, he said that project should only be revealed to the citizens when it is almost completed, almost executed. And therefore, Lord Ramachandra said, now see here, he is not talking about Samatavad. He is not talking about everybody is equal. You cannot run a country, even the socialistic government, even the communistic government. For that matter, even when Mayawati was leading the UP government, who was her advisor? Of course, many she did not take. She wanted intelligent people, at least for some time around her, capable people around her, right? Because they are the one who execute properly. Therefore, Lord Ramachandra said, better to have one intelligent advisor than thousands so-called dumb and stupid people, right? Because number does not matter, efficiency matters for those who are ruling class. Therefore, he said, educated, valorous, expert, and strategic. Chanakya goes one step ahead. He says, educated, valorous, expert, strategic, and sanskaras. What are his sanskaras? Because if he does not have sanskaras, then he can be easily purchased by your enemies. Huh? And then Lord Ramachandra, very word is used. Janapada. He said, who should be chosen as the ambassador? Diplomat. Not one who says the World Hindu Growth Rate. He said, you choose those people who are connected to the soil. No, in the India Today conclave, Puri, the editor-in-chief, he made an interesting point. I heard his small talk when he welcomed the Prime Minister. He said, one thing about the Prime Minister is, he said, this person has stayed almost in every town of India. Every town. On the other hand, the first Prime Minister had not seen many villages. And therefore he made certain statement, our temples are our industries. He did not see India's history where it was harmonized between dharma and artha. Rather, he learned the concept of capitalism and some other broad socialism in there. Life was capitalistic, but process was socialism. And therefore, the red carpet has to be established where there was too much of difficulty in empowering the business. इसलिए कहते हैं कि गांव में, and this is spoken by Chanakya Pandit also, and if you study, there is this talk given by one professor studying the 26th 11, what happened in Taj Mahal, and how the Taj Hotel people, all the employees, how risking their own life, they were trying to protect their clients, their guests. It's an interesting story. And when they did the survey, why was that? Of course, credit goes to the Tatas also. But why Tata chose some kind of people? Most of these people who are working in that Taj 5-star hotel, they came from 3-tier, 2-tier, those kind of smaller towns. They were trained, they were educated, they came from the background of contributing, helping, right? Not living in a isolated town, a tall building. They lived in a ground area. They knew the sapling, they knew the child, they knew the old people, they had seen the old woman, right? I'm not saying there are no problems. There are hundreds of problems. But still, there is this dynamics of whenever there is a challenge and difficulty, they can take that responsibility and be sahasi. And therefore, if you study, the most of the freedom fighters who were the revolutionaries, there are two classes of people. One, they came from very highly educated family, or they came from the villages, simple family. Sri Aurobindo Ghosh, his father was a big landlord. He was so fascinated by the British culture. When his son was 7-year-old, he sent him to London, and the rule was made that nothing Indian should come anywhere close to my son. His middle name was given a British name. He was not taught to speak Bengali. Right? Eventually, when he went for higher studies, that is how he came in touch with India through literature. And see the transformation. Right? He became one of the original founders of the revolutionary movement. Madan Lal Dhingra. Right? His parents disowned Madan Lal Dhingra because they were highly educated in those times, 1900. And this man came to study civil engineer. And from very beginning, he had this trouble of the capitalistic, you know, abuse created by the British Empire. So he came there. He was self-inspired and he knew, what I'm doing is going to put me to the death nail. But when he went to die, you should read his statements. He saw that as a contribution to service of Lord Ram and Lord Krishna. And those freedom fighters, when they were not killed or they did not become martyrs, many took to the path of deep spirituality. And therefore, rooted becomes very interesting principle. Therefore, Chanakya explains your sanskaras matters, your qualification matters, your productivity matters, and your humility matters. And then in Lord Ramachandra's kingdom, the Gnostics were not allowed. Who are Gnostic? The word Gnostic is not connected to those who do not believe in God. Here the word Gnostic is connected to those who do not believe in the Vedas. Because what are the Vedas? Vedas are connected to life as it is. There is dharma, there is artha, there is kama, and there is moksha. Veda produced people with three pramanas: Pratyaksha Pramana, Anuman Pramana, and Shabda Pramana. Those who are against the Vedas, who do not practice Vedas, they have no Shraddha. And if you don't have Shraddha, you can't have relationships. If you don't have relationship, you use people for simply convenience. Therefore, a Veda Vihina logic becomes very, very artificial. It is destroying of the nature. It destroys the legacy. It destroys the Shraddha. It destroys the future. Therefore, Lord Ramachandra, was so profound in continuing the legacy of his father, his ancestor. In fact, Valmiki Maharshi explains, certainly it was Lord Ramachandra who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when Sri Ram was not there ruling Ayodhya, Bharat ruled better than Lord Ramachandra on behalf of Ramachandra. That was the beauty of legacy. It was not about himself. If I am not there, what will happen? When people take pleasure in seeing things collapse in their absence, they are not a very good leaders. अरे आपके बिना भी चलता हो, there is nothing wrong. It is not that your people are forgetting you, that you have established the system so nicely that it doesn't matter whether you are not there or you are there. You will get your credit, but they will not make you a cult figure. In the absence of Lord Ramachandra, people suffered internally. But in absence of Lord Ramachandra, the laws of Lord Ram were so coherent, so consistent, and so stable, there was a greater satisfaction amongst the citizens. See this beauty. Externally great, internally painful. Bharat did not destroy Ayodhya, thinking that what can I do now? What is the point? Because Lord Ram is not there, everything is empty. So Sanatana Dharma had the power of harmonizing between the avatara coming for governance and avatara coming for capturing your heart, and which Lord Ramachandra, Lord Krishna, they did so beautifully. I'll conclude with this story. The great Kanak Das, he wrote a beautiful story. There is a small thesis or a poetry called as Ramadhanya. Ramadhanya. Now, what is Ramadhanya? Dhanya. Now we are working on millet, right? Oh, millet, millet, millet. Sab log ko millet khana chahiye. Purandar Das, Kanak Das, wrote a poetry in 16th century about the greatness of millet. And if we had read these kind of literature, if these literatures were taught us in the early childhood, imagine we would be highly educated, at the same time rooted deep inside rishis and outside the Raja. So there was a conflict between millet and rice. They were saying, who is the king? Who is the best of the grains? So they had a fight, and eventually they couldn't. Conflict was not resolved. They came to Lord Ram and they presented their case. Lord Ram said, दोनों को ग्रह में रखो, ग्रह बंदी बनाओ, बंदी matlab, keep them, and after 6 months we will see what to do. No, case को आगे ढकल दिया. Not because he was inefficient, because he was scientifically understanding what to do. After 6 months, when ragi and rice both were called, rice had developed certain fungus and ragi had not developed. Lord Ramachandra said, to be the king, you have to have a durability. For you to have a king, you have to have a patience. For you to be a king, you should be immune from all kind of contamination. Therefore, I declare ragi as the king of grains. The rice felt little bad. Lord Ramachandra had already decided. He said, for a king to be coronated, you need rice over his head. Because rice also represents the concept of inexhaustible prosperity. Therefore, in the marriage ceremony, what people do? They offer rice on the newly married couple. They offer rice on a person who is newly coronated as the king. For all kinds of puja, the rice is required. Paddy is much more sought for because it is called as akshata. Akshata means which is not breaking, which is inexhaustible. Right? Even though ragi is the king, but rice makes the kingship fulfilled. And therefore, Lord Ramachandra, his kind of work, his kind of presentation, his kind of governance is there in every part of Valmiki's Ramayana. From 25th to 29th, it will be a morning time, 6:30. I'll be focusing on the great personalities, 5 great personalities: Kaushalya, Sumitra, Sita, Mandodari, and Tara. They were self-sufficient. One of the greatest quality, those who came to Lord Ramachandra, they were personally self-sufficient. They did not need to come to Lord Ram for asking, mujhe job do, mujhe prem do, mujhe paisa do. No, they were self-sufficient. So imagine such self-sufficient people. They came to Lord Ram as a mother. We can't call Sumitra stepmother. She was as much as the mother as Kaushalya. Tara, what a transformation she had. Mandodari, such a brilliant harmony between crying for her husband and cursing for her husband's adharma. A great personality, Mandodari. Sita, right? The entire Ramayana, at some point of time, it is explained that Valmiki was tempted to name it as Sita Yana. Right? So therefore, each day for 4 days, we will try to see the character of these great personalities. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Our Sanatan Dharma truly values millets as well as rice. our spiritual life as well as material life. Prabhuji, what we observe is that in spiritual circles, sometimes we feel a little awkward to discuss about material subjects. And in our social life, material life, discussing spiritual matters, sometimes it's looked down upon. So why is this sense of discomfort to discuss, alternate subjects in different circles?
Yeah, that is how our education system is designed, right? We have been brainwashed to such an extent, that spirituality has been, undermined. It's a very private affair. And if it was made into public affair, people became very radical about forcing spirituality, right? So therefore, there is a uncomfort. And in regards to materialism, when the materialism, again, as I was mentioning in the beginning, that how, in the Western world at some point of time, the Industrial Revolution very attacked the Christianity to the core, right? So they said God is dead, basically wanted to destroy Christianity. In fact, Patrick Nietzsche said, I'm an antichrist. Christ presented this whole superficial concept of everybody is equal. It's a mob psychology. So there was some truth to that. So our people using those concepts to the Indian civilization after the coming of the Britishers, there was a huge separation between the spirituality and artha. But if you go and study history in the 17th century, Shastras, whether you want to study Vedas, even the Upanishad in the Shikshavali we discussed, one of the prayer the teacher offers while studying Vedas to the student, that let us together increase our prosperity. Let us become famous so that we can give this knowledge. So there was no hesitation in regards to harmonizing between artha and dharma, kama and moksha. They did it very seamlessly, right? Similarly, those who are vegetarian and non-vegetarian, the battle was non-existent. Lord Chaitanya gave that Brahmana, that fisherman, used to chant regularly Narsing mantra. He knew Mahaprabhu very well, right? So therefore, there were people who were extremely conscious of their food habits. And they knew there were people in Valmiki's Ramayana. One of the most fascinating story is Bharadharaj Rishi provides meat for the army, not everybody, some part of the army of Bharat when they came to bring back Lord Ramachandra. This Valmiki's, now that's not ambiguous, it is very clear, right? So therefore, it is caused by wrong understanding presented by the modern education. Therefore, there is a segregation to such an extent that spirituality is ridiculed. I was seeing one young girl, somebody asked her, do you know Ramayana? He said, "Musse kya lena dena mere ko?" He said, what do you need to do with Ramayana? But she knew all the concept of how, the music industry, the film industry is operating in the Western world. He said, ma'am, are you not supposed to understand this? Ye apni Sanskriti hai. She is taking it very lightly, and this is the nature of large number of people. Nothing to curse them, no need to be angry with them, but slowly work on this principle where we can integrate as it is prescribed in the Valmiki Ramayana and also in Mahabharata.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. There's a question from Rupa Chandra Prabhu. How will you respond to those who say that certain Western European countries like Switzerland, Finland, and Asian countries like Singapore, they've attained economic success and social stability, keeping secularism in the forefront without dharmic principles?
Yeah, if you go and study Singapore, one of the, in his own book, there is a huge book written about the premier of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, and read that first part of, how he was guided through the Chanakyan Arthashastra. It's not written by any Indian, it's written by the Western people only, right? So if you study Finland's education policies, they may not have taken directly from the concept of Gurukul education, but the principle what they're applying is based upon that item only. They may not add spirituality, but they're giving importance to the family, right? And there are certain countries where they try to bring socialism. As long as the wealth was there, it is working. Otherwise, larger section of Europe is falling apart. People don't go to the church, right? Economically also. See, you cannot judge a country by 50 years of legacy. एक स्टेट का इतिहास आपको 1000 साल तक देखना चाहिए, 500 साल तक देखना चाहिए, केवल 25 साल के लिए नहीं देखना चाहिए. In the beginning, at some point of time, Pakistan had a greater resources in regards to, in regards to land. Just before the Second World War, the army of British India, there was less than 6% Hindu soldiers in British army. It was Savarkar who insisted that you should join, because once India gets independence, then there has to be larger number of people who are ruling here. So therefore, it is wrong to study for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years and make a claim of why they are growing. There are 2 books written by large number of groups who studied economical history. Read the writings of Guru Murtiji and Swaminathan. They talk about this whole principle. So therefore, lack of information for 300-400 years will make us feel that, okay, this is how the best way it was operating.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. I'll request Champa Radhakrishnan ji to please ask the question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Very nice lecture. I just have one doubt. You told about we did not have this difference between vegetarians and non-vegetarians. That was not given much importance. I'm vegetarian by birth, but after joining this Krishna consciousness, we are advised to give up garlic and onion and all that. If that distinction was not there, why this restriction?
Yeah, because you are taking to the path of spirituality, a disciplined sadhana. So disciplined sadhana requires certain habits. That does not mean that you go around in the society slandering, condemning those who are eating non-vegetarian food. No, so therefore any spiritual practice, whether you take to the path of Buddhism, whether you take to the path of Jainism, whether you take to the path of humanitarian also, even if you take to the path of natural lifestyle, if you go to naturopathy, Indian naturopathy for that matter, they will recommend eating a vegetarian food. But if you study Ayurveda for that matter, Ayurveda doesn't focus on spirituality. The purpose of Ayurveda is health, to make society healthy. So in Ayurveda, it is recommended for some people who are suffering to such an extent to take some non-vegetarian food. You read Manu Samhita also, right? In Manu Samhita, Manu ultimately says when you are evolving more and more, then you are actually giving up certain habits which are not beneficial to you. So therefore, the kind of conflict what we see, vegetarian, non-vegetarian, which is existing now, it was non-existing. I grew up in a Brahmin colony. We were renting and there were people who rent, and they were spiritual people, not educated, modern educated, but spiritual background. So they gave homes to people who were also meat eaters, as long as they're not displaying it so, externally. So if you study carefully, none of the, great teachers in the south, the Sri Vaishnavas, the nine Nayanars and the Madhva Sampradaya people, they were very strict about their own lifestyle. But those whom they preached, they gave them Vaishnava Diksha, but never forced them that you have to be vegetarian, then only will give Upanan Samskar. If you go to Bihar, there are Brahmins also. Or if you go to North Karnataka, there is Gaud Saraswat community. The priestly class, they don't eat, but there are large number of people, they eat meat. And even while eating meat, they are given their Upanan Samskar. If you go to Bihar, as I said, there is a large class of Brahmins, not modernized Brahmins I'm talking about, who eat meat every day, 24 hours, 365 days. But there are communities, large number, they practice their Brahmanical Vrata, including Upanan Samskar also. So therefore, we are not promoting non-vegetarianism. We are promoting, tolerance and not slandering them. So, but if you want to practice a disciplined sadhana, then naturally it is requested, it is asked that you should avoid certain food which are more in Tamo and Rajoguna. But if you go and interact some of your family member, if they are eating, and you undermine them just because they eat onion garlic, that shows that, purity has caused so much of intolerance and arrogance, then we can't be part of the society so much, because we are part of the society. We have to learn the art of integration while maintaining our own discipline of life.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for very good insight.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, is Varna by your birth or nature or both?
It is, again, there are some people, they will say, Varna is by birth only. And then some people will say Varna is only by Guna. Now, if you study Bhagavad Gita harmonizes between the both. Bhagavad Gita says Guna Karma Vibhagasha. And in the 6th chapter, Gita talks about the mere fact is that you are born in particular family. It shows that you had certain connection to piety. No? Right? If you are born with certain limitations, it is okay to accept these are my limitations, I can rectify myself. But if you become proud, angry, how can you say that because I'm born in a poor family and because I had certain limitation? By being angry, you are not going to grow nicely. By humility, you can empower yourself. Humility does not mean that you become depressed. So yes, Gita does talk about both. That you're born in a particular family with better resources. Can I condemn him? How the hell you are born in a nice family? Why you are so intelligent? Why God is so partial? How does God come in the picture in this story? The whole Prakriti is functioning in a very refined system. If you put some dirt, agar aapne chawal banaya with a low quality fire, means gas pe, right? And your rice is not proper quality, you're not giving attention properly, and you expect that to be as good as something where people have put right consciousness, right quality rice, right judicious water, so quality antar hoga na. I will choose something which is done nicely. I will not say, I don't care. I don't believe in distinction between this rice or that rice. So therefore, there is a beautiful fluid dynamics in regards to birth and quality. all right? But now it has become, there is a division, huge division. There are some people who say, no, you have to be born. And there are some people say, no, you are supposed to be developing those qualities. And there are other woke people, leftist people, liberal, they say all this Varna system has to be destroyed. And therefore, if India has to grow, Hinduism ko destroy karna padega. They're sitting to destroy Hinduism, right? So in this way, you can have a great joke to see around, but follow deeper principle of Bhagavad Gita to contribute to yourself and to others.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, can we take one last question?
Yeah.
Yeah, can I request Manali ji to please ask your question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji,
Yes.
thank you so much for a wonderful lecture. I just want to understand that we have been talking a lot about environmental social governance, and India has been the host for G20 also. So how do all these connect to our Vedic scriptures and Bhagavad Gita? Because Lord has talked about Prakriti, Purush, everything. So how can we, as an ISKCON followers, carry forward the message, whatever is there in the Bhagavad Gita, and make people understand that, okay, all these ESG and G20, what we are talking lot, comes from the Vedic literatures only.
They're planning to work on it, but see again, the civilization, because what is democracy? Democracy goes by popular vote. Like Sri Lanka tried to forcefully implement the natural farming. So it collapsed. They forced. On the other hand, Sikkim government, which is a very small, they did organically the organic concept. They slowly